Boris Johnson's Conservative Party election campaign funded by wife of former Putin ally.
Here's a summary of the article.
Boris Johnson's Conservative Party election campaign received a six-figure donation from the wife of a former finance minister and ally of Russian President Vladimir Putin. Chernokin previously paid £160,000 for a tennis match with Johnson and £135,000 for a night out with former Prime Minister Theresa May. The donation came as Johnson refused to publish a report by Parliament's Intelligence and Security Committee about potential Russian interference in recent UK elections. The committee looked into donations from 9 Russian sources, according to a report by The Sunday Times. Johnson blocked the report, which was set to be published before the election campaign, because of fears that the information would damage his chance of winning the UK general election next month, sources told The Times. Lebedev is not a Conservative Party donor, but his son, Evgeny, is a close friend of the Prime Minister and repeatedly hosted him for parties at his castle in Perugia, Italy, while Johnson was the Mayor of London and the Foreign Secretary. Johnson's chief strategist, Dominic Cummings, has been under the spotlight since The Sunday Times early this month reported on a whistleblower raising serious concerns about Cummings' time in Russia in the 1990s. Boris Johnson's chief of staff, whose account of his time in Russia is apparently full of gaps and inaccuracies, is granted inexplicably the highest level of security clearance yet is not given full access to secret intelligence.
This post received a score of 16,584, with an upvote ratio of 92%. Here are the top comments in response to this article.
There is no such thing as former Putin ally that is alive.
He used to be a Putin ally. Still is, but used to be, too.
Unexpected Mitch. RIP.
Totally expected unexpected Mitch follow-up.
And once again, all conservative roads lead to Russia.
Can't wait to see the BBC now draw a red backdrop of Boris in a fez whilst they bash him for his racist watermelon smile comments whilst debunking anti-Zionism weaponized as anti-Semitism. And #X200B. No, I really can't, as the bias is strong.
BBC wasn't carrying the "Andrew kicked out of Buckingham" story when all the other networks had it, and in fact a site search at the time for Prince Andrew returned nothing on the topic at all. I used to think they were a relatively good source but have my doubts after seeing that.
They are great for international news, but I think they've always been unreliable for local political information and especially for anything about the royals. The BBC has always been hand in glove with government and monarchy.
Nah. The BBC have always had a slight slant to the sitting government, but their national news still used to be a lot better. Their news quality has declined dramatically in recent years since the Tories overtook its management, and the bias couldn't be more blatant than it is now.
I always thought their official news seemed to be supportive of the current government, but their entertainment, comedy output would be more critical? However, I've moved away to Australia, where local news and entertainment is shockingly bad, so maybe I'm wearing rose-tinted glasses from my pre-immigrant life? Yes, I'm an immigrant. I went to Australia and stole their jobs and one of their women.
It was you. I always thought the BBC was like our ABC. Nup.
I bet the leaders of the USSR are kicking themselves now. They bankrupted their country trying to keep up with the West militarily. Apparently for the paltry sum of a few $1 million to the right people they could have just infiltrated the conservative parties in Britain and the USA. The Cold War would have been over by 1970.
The biggest change since is social media making spreading falsehoods far easier amongst the masses.
And the fact that America has been defunding federal education programs for decades. Social media plus dumber population equals easy as fuck to manipulate Americans.
Guess what party sponsor most of these changes?
Not most, all.
I heard about Russian ties to Brexit on the podcast Gaslit Nation last year. It's crazy that more people aren't alarmed about how strategic Putin's plan is and how it's coming to fruition before our eyes.
This video was automatically created by Reddit to speech. The article and comments in this video were selected from Reddit according to their upvotes, and any paraphrasing was performed by smmry.com, without any human intervention.